Hey friends, lately I've been taking care to implement more healthy rituals into my day-to-day routine, and one major change I've made has been to remove all electronics from my room so that I can start my day by setting my intentions and with prayer, rather than being influenced by outside noise from the news or social media that can really negatively affect my mood. And from there, I usually just head to the shower, and if I've got time, I love to apply this Peter Roth cucumber face mask. It's so hydrating and makes my skin feel so supple, and it's really just a special treat that I can do for myself when I've got the time. And I usually leave it on long enough for me to be able to style my hair and make my bed before I wash it off and head out for my walk, which I don't always do this every day, but I try to make an effort to frequently get outside and get fresh air when I feel like I need it. And from there, I just focus on other passions like taking care of my plants. I used to be a major plant killer back in the day, and this summer I've been taking an interest in really making sure that I'm keeping them alive and I'm caring for them correctly, and it's honestly a nice challenge. Outside of my plants, I love photography.
Hanging out with the fam, and we're gonna do a little photo shoot today. So we've got a makeup artist in the family. Hey! And my other cousin is doing the modeling. So we're just gonna get some shots for both of our portfolios and see what we come up with.
It's been so much fun to step into my creativity and challenge myself in an entirely new way, and really just enter into my own kind of universe, which is similar to how I feel when I'm reading, something that I've neglected for a while in the past.
I wanted to take a little time to just share some book recommendations and reviews, because this is the first time in a long time that I've actually been reading like physical books. So of course, when I was living in Italy, I was really only able to read things on Kindle, which honestly is just like not my vibe. So I am so happy that like this past month, I've just been like diving back into reading my favorite genre of all time, which is fantasy. And I've got some romance too that I've been reading. And I just want to share what I think is really great so far. So the first book that I really recommend is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So if you are familiar with the Netflix series Shadow and Bone, then this is the author of that book series. And I recommend this for anybody who's interested in like dark academia and the occult. This is definitely the book for you. So the main character, she survives this really gruesome murder, and she gets recruited into the secret society that's at Yale University. And once she gets to the university, there's another murder that happens on campus, and she basically has to investigate. So it is a very good book. I think sometimes the pacing is a little bit slow, but overall, I really enjoyed it. And there is going to be a sequel to this. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but I would say check this one out. Now, if you are on Book Talk, then you have heard about this series, A Court of Thorns and Roses. This series has the girlies in a chokehold. And I was really excited to read this because it has so many positive reviews. People are raving about the characters. And I was like, yes, I need to read it. And even when I walked into Barnes & Noble, the girl who was working in there, she was just like, you have to read this. The first book is okay, but the second book gets even better. And I have to say that I'm actually really disappointed in this series, and I've decided that I'm not going to continue it. And here's why. So this book was really sold to me as like fantasy romance, and a lot of people are like talking about how spicy it is. And number one, if you think you're reading this book and you're gonna get a lot of spicy scenes, just let me tell you that's not gonna happen, okay? Any spice in this book happens mostly towards the end, and it's like one scene. So for that alone, if that's really what you're looking for, this is not the book for that. Also, what I found is that the author does a lot of telling and not showing, and I think that very negatively affects the pacing of the book. This second book is over 600 pages long, and majority of the action happens within the last 5 chapters. The same thing happens in this book. Majority of the action in the first novel happens within the last few chapters. And I just find that to be very frustrating, that you basically have to slog through the majority of the book in order for you to get some action until it ends on a cliffhanger. I also find the main character to be a little bit fickle, and I don't totally agree with all of her choices. And without spoiling, I think that the author specifically made the decision that she does from the book 1 to book 2, particularly because she wanted to avoid a typical YA trope. But I think it was a mistake. An unpopular opinion, but I don't recommend this series. If the idea of a fantasy romance novel piques your interest, but you really are looking for like the spice, which is honestly why anybody reads romance novels in the first place, then I recommend Sherilyn Kenyon's Dark Hunter series. These books are actually pretty old. So the first prequel was written in 2002, which sometimes you can tell because some of the language used in the book, I mean, at one point the character says things like, "Watch it, Buster," or "Holy guacamole," which I find a little bit off-putting and dated, but just know the time in which these books were written. Okay, but I heavily recommend this for anybody who's interested in Greek mythology, demon hunting, and you like the idea of a new protagonist or like new couple every single book. This series is very long. I think there's like 20 books in this series, and as far as I know, the world in this book does become a lot more involved, but just the first few books that I've read so far, they're very, very easy to get through. I mean, it's not that big, so you can get done with these books in like a few hours, and it's just fun, it's sexy, they're easy to read, the couples are likable, and that's about that. But this is white romance. So if you are like, Eva, okay, I want to read some romance, but I prefer to read about a black lead, I got you. I heavily recommend L.A. Banks' Vampire Huntress series. So I actually started reading these like when I was 17, and I haven't picked them up since, but I'm thinking about rereading them. And it's similar to Sherilyn Kenyon in that there's like 20 books in the series, but the entire series is just about the one couple. So the main character, her name is Damali Richards, and she is a vampire huntress by night, but a music artist by day. And her on and off boyfriend, Carlos, eventually gets turned into a vampire, but the two of them don't actually know the true nature of one another. And the vampire world in this series is like very complex, very in-depth. Sometimes, at least I remember when I read it a long time ago, it was a little bit confusing. But I did know that I keep going back to the series because I really, really love the couple. Like, I don't even know, like I haven't read all 20 books, but I don't even know that you could get bored of the couple because quite honestly, I just think that the couple is so well written and they're really interesting. But yeah, the vampire world at times in this book can be a lot. So just be forewarned, but black author, black lead, I think you should try it out. Continuing with the black author and black lead, but not fantasy, but still romance, I recommend Jasmine Guillory and this book, While We Were Dating. So this is not my favorite type of romance. If I'm gonna read a romance, I prefer it with a fantasy element, but this one is just like pure kind of like rom-com. this could very easily be a movie. It's very cute. The main character is an actress. She falls in love with this guy who works in advertising, and they meet on the set of their commercial. Very, very cute, easy to get through. Again, Black couple. I really recommend this if you're just looking for something to just like read, and over the holidays you just want to something simple that will take your mind off of things. This is really, really a great recommendation. I'm gonna try reading some of her other novels. Again, just regular romance is not my favorite, but I think Jasmine Guillory is really talented and she makes really cute couples, so I recommend it. My final recommendation is a little bit different because it's not a traditional novel, but it's a graphic novel, and it is Monstrous by Marjorie Liu. She is an Asian author, and the main protagonist is also Asian, so that's really cool if you're looking for more like POC type characters in writing. And this is unlike anything I have ever read. It is a complete matriarchal society. The world is split up into humans, witches, and a witch and human mix called Arcanics. And basically, they're all at war. And this main character, she has some kind of key, probably, to ending the war. And I don't really want to spoil why, but it is really, really interesting. The story is a little bit dark, but I just think that this is like a really great way to step into reading graphic novels if you've never really entertained the thought of reading a comic before. Because if you didn't know, comics are not only about Marvel and Superman, but there's a whole nother world that you can open yourself up to. And I mean, I could make like a video alone just about the comic series that I've read. So if anybody's actually interested in that, let me know in the comments below, because I'll do it. But this is a really great series to get yourself interested into more comics. And there's a few volumes out already. So I recently picked up volume 6 not too long ago, and I'm really excited to start reading this. I haven't read it yet, mainly because I need to reread everything else just to remind myself of what's happened in the story. But graphic novels are super easy to get through, so you can always pick them up again and again. And the artwork in this one is just absolutely beautiful. Storytelling is gorgeous. The main character is really complex. I totally recommend it. And yeah. Those are the things that I've been reading. This might have taken a little bit longer than I expected it to, but I just wanted to share what I've been reading because I am just so excited and so happy to actually be like, I said reading a lot, but I'm happy to be reading again because I just haven't been doing it in so long. And it's just like, I've been just devouring books lately, and it's a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys like some of my recommendations. If you've read some of the series that I've talked about today, like, let me know. I'd love to hear your opinions on them, especially on A Court of Thorns and Roses. I really want to know how many people have read it and like don't enjoy it. That would be really cool. So with that, yeah, I mean, happy reading, guys.